So, what's up people and welcome to the Mission 120 discussion of Spy Family. So Mission 120 came out a while back, and as always I will leave a link to this mission that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, I will go take a look at it before they pull this mission back. Okay, so 120. So 120 is a very notable mission. This was a mission that basically is not only a win for the Yor fans, but it's also a milestone for them. For it takes the relationship of Yor and Loid to a very specific level, which I'll talk about later. However, similar to 119, this also brought light to a very notable point with regards to this relationship. In chapter 119, we talked a little bit about the difference that we see between Yor's feelings towards Loid versus Loid's feelings towards Yor. And that concern becomes reinforced in Mission 120, when Loid does a very, somewhat notable, problematic comment with regards to his relationship with Yor. But I am getting ahead of myself, and in the beginning, the chapter starts out not with Yor and Loid, but with Yor and Hemlock, if you recall. And I figured that something like this would happen eventually, since, you saw Yor's co-workers noticing that Yor was with Hemlock. And so, of course, they followed Yor in the last chapter, and eventually Yor and Loid were able to ditch these three. Well, they're back. I thought they would eventually bring this point up. I just didn't think that it would be in the next chapter. But they're back. And of course, they're asking Yor about the situation and why she was with this mysterious man. And of course, Yor has no answer. And so she looks over to Matthew, who just happens to be walking by, and asking him silently for his help. And so Matthew lets out a sigh and makes a few calls. And when he comes back and the three girls are about to tell Matthew about Yor's adultery, he brings in Hemlock to introduce him as the new employee of the company. I don't know what Matthew did, but he seems to have some significant influence in this government to be able to bring Hemlock in right away as an employee. And of course, Hemlock doesn't know anything about it either, and so he's like, what the heck is going on? But Matthew ignores him and continues to introduce him to the three girls. And this is something else that I wondered about, because I didn't think that Hemlock would come in as an employee of the group. But I wondered, because the three girls noticed Hemlock, that there would be some interaction between the four of them later on. And if that was the case, since the only person who's single in the three girls is Millie, that maybe there will be some relationship building between Millie and Hemlock, considering Hemlock was talking about how he needed to be in a relationship. But what I didn't expect was Tatsuya Endo to bring it out so hard in this chapter when Millie starts asking Hemlock a bunch of questions indicating her interest in him. And in fact, she seems to be quite smitten with Hemlock, considering that she's already inviting Hemlock out to dinner to get to know each other better. And both Camilla and Sharon are telling Millie to stop over this infatuation. But you're already starting to see this development of yet another relationship that's probably going to be more comedic than anything else, because you know what Hemlock's personality is, and Millie might be a good foil for him to have his comedic moments. So I got a feeling that there's probably going to be more development between these two as a comedy duo. But of course, that isn't the major point of this chapter. The major point goes back to Yor's concern that she had in the past chapter. And this is something that I do need to say. In the past chapter, I did mention how Yor was becoming concerned about her relationship with Loid, and whether that was going to be a burden on Garden. and whether there actually can be a true relationship between these two, considering that it was basically an artificial family. And in the end of chapter 119, I mentioned that Yor was coming to terms with herself that it may not end up being what she wanted. And my conclusion from that was that in the future, Yor was going to accept that and move on and become a little bit colder, and then the relationship may come back to a more warmer relationship in the future. However, Tatsuya Endo actually went the other direction. So anyway, before that happens, we come back to Loid. And Loid is already spacing out, which is very unusual for him. And of course, the handler, noticing this, asks what's wrong. And his co-worker starts making humorous remarks about maybe you're having problems with your wife. And of course, Fiona just happens to be nearby and immediately sets her attention and goes, What's going on? But of course, this is what I mean with regards to the difference between Loid and Yor with regards to how they feel about the relationship. Loid has also been concerned about the relationship, but as you can see, his side is more about how their relationship may affect Operation Strix. If there is a problem in their relationship, this may put a damper onto the operation, and this would significantly make it difficult for him to be able to succeed in his mission. So from Loid's perspective, all of the concern that he had with regards to his relationship with Yor is all on a professional level, with very little coming out that indicates that he has feelings for her beyond this mission. And when I said that there was something that was extremely concerning about a comment that he makes in this particular chapter, happens when Fiona comes up and confronts him and says, well, if you're having problems and if the mission is at jeopardy, maybe it's best to find a new partner. And that would, of course, be me. And of course, considering that it's a very comical statement that Fiona made, the concerning comment that comes back is, yeah, you may be right, Fiona. Which, of course, from a comical perspective, makes Fiona completely freak out. And she's like, this is what I always wanted, but it's too early. I'd have no idea what to do when he blindsides me like that. But of course, with Loid, he's not doing it to freak Fiona out. He actually felt that way when he made that comment. And of course, the handler starts making the common sense response, which is if you start changing your relationship right in the middle of the situation and bring in a new mother, then this may potentially cause more problems to the operation than the situation you have at this time. And so to avoid causing any major problems in the situation, you need to figure out what's going on with Yor and to resolve this situation. And once again, this brings in a very concerning response that Loid makes when he starts saying, yes, I understand, this may become a problem. And he starts talking about how they need to start digging into Yor's past to understand her future. In other words, to resolve this relationship problem that he may be worried about, he's not talking about talking to Yor and having a heart-to-heart talk. He's talking about professionally digging into her personal life to understand what's going on with her as a person. And so this, of course, emphasizes the very different situation that we have between Yor and Loid. And if this was how it would end, then this would actually be a L for the Twi-Yor group. So why did I call it a win? Well, that happens a little bit later. But in the meantime, we come back to, the Damian comedy, and Damian's yelling at Anya again, and Anya's taking it the usual way, and Becky's like, you gotta be able to open your heart, Anya, and accept the truth that you are in with regards to how you feel about Damian. So Anya opens her heart and starts thinking about Damian, and the only thing that comes out is, God, he's a jerk. And of course Becky is like, wow, you really run hot and cold, don't you, Anya? And Anya's answering, yes, I'm an honest girl. You know? But in any case, I think this is a kind of a contrast again of trying to use that situation to bring up the relationship issues that Yor is having and her feelings that she has with Loid compared to, of course, Anya's feelings for Damian. And so, of course, eventually Anya gets home and she's doing her homework, and actually Yor gives advice which turns out to be correct in her math. And Anya's like, how? How is somebody like you able to give a correct answer to math? And Yor is happily sitting there going, it's probably because I've been absolutely enjoying how Loid teaches you. And it's probably because of that that I learned a little bit more about math myself. And with that, Yor starts becoming curious and starts asking questions to Anya about what sort of life those two had before Yor came into the relationship. And of course, Anya's like, well, to be honest, she's thinking my relationship with Papa is no more honest than hers. But luckily, Yor is saying that Anya would have been too small to really know what their life was like earlier. And of course, this makes Anya ask a question. Are you interested in Papa? And of course, we understand why that scene before with Damian comes up, because Anya repeats what Becky told her and saying, Mama, you need to start being honest and opening up your heart to understand yourself better. And it is at that point that Yor says, maybe you're right. And with that, she finally says, I guess that I might actually be in love with Loid. Which surprised Anya. Maybe, considering the fact that she can read Yor's mind quite well. But of course, she doesn't understand exactly what love means. And so she asks Yor, do you love Loid more than you love rice? Or rice omelet, right? And Yor's telling Anya, well, it's not exactly like that. And Anya says, well, I love Papa too. And Yor is smiling and going, well, it's not exactly like that either. And she's thinking about what she just said. And she's wondering, yes, her relationship with Loid is somewhat made up as a contract. And she knows that as an assassin, she can never live a truly normal life. And as such, she tells Anya, because she is not a good girl, she would like to ask Anya to not tell Loid about what she said. And Anya promises, right in time to see Loid come home. And the entire chapter ends with Anya asking for omurice for dinner, and Loid asking, is that okay with you, Yor? And Yor answering, I love omurice too. So, yeah. This ends in a very cute manner, and this was a major win from one side, with Yor confessing how much she loves Loid. But of course, there was the concerning side that we know from Loid's perspective, even if he does have feelings for Yor, his commitment that he makes for Operation Strix and the WISE organization is still much higher than his feelings for Yor. And of course, this opens up the plot line of how Tatsuya Endo will be bringing up Loid's personal feelings that most likely will eventually grow so that he will truly start caring for Yor as well. And most likely because the way he is bringing this up, and because there is somewhat a conflict between his feelings for Yor and his commitment to Operation Strix, there will probably be a situation in the future which will pit his relationship with Yor against his commitment to the operation. And it will probably be at that time that he will start really understanding how he feels about her. But this probably will require a much bigger and much more serious arc that most likely will come in the future. And I got a feeling that for this situation, this chapter ends this somewhat relationship arc that we have been seeing for the past few chapters. And once again, congratulations to all the Yor fans. I think this is a major milestone in the plot with regards to the development of this relationship. And I am enjoying the way Tatsuya Endo is once again bringing this relationship up. I never like ships that are just immediately created for the sake of a ship. You see so many comments out there about I ship this, I ship that, and why doesn't the story now create all this time with regards to ships? But I do like stories where the relationship is actually embedded into the story and naturally progresses the way the story would tell it. And by doing that, it makes it more immersive, it makes it more real, and it makes the actual story a lot more interesting because the characters have this definition. And when there is a win that actually comes out with regards to any relationship written in this way, you feel a lot more grateful with regards to how the story brought this relationship together because of the complexity and depth that the story provides for this relationship. And so seeing how Tatsuya Endo is moving this relationship forward with Yor accepting the feeling and Loid not, it sets up the expectation that he will be nurturing this even further and creating this relationship that will grow along with the plot and this mission. And I am looking forward to seeing what happens in the future. I don't think it will happen in the next chapter. Tatsuya Endo makes sure that it kind of naturally takes time for the relationship to grow, and we'll probably end up in another different arc in the next chapter. But we'll have to find out what that will be and if that actually is the case. And once that chapter comes out, I'll bring out another video, and I hope you join me at that time. But this is the Mission 120 discussion of Spy Family. If you read it, what you think about it? How do you feel this relationship between Yor and Loid will move forward? Any comments will be greatly appreciated. And until the next chapter, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya and nice day, everyone.